All right, so this is basically the last and final video for this project. So last time I made a video, I believe I didn't have all this red finished. As you can see, I started the last and final stage where you see the dark blue, and this is where I've committed to certain things. You can kind of see some aspects within the red. You can even see some old green. So the green, just to kind of review, the green is the original geometric straight line construction form that I did first stage. Second stage was taking each individual form and rounding it off, and at times if I could integrate it or interconnect it into another form by pulling it all the way down, possibly passing 2 or 3 rows into another form, or just interconnecting 2 different pieces, one cube and this cube, and I just kind of made a round and interconnected them. In some cases I pulled it across in this direction. This was a cube here. I just made it a little bit longer in terms of a pyramid on its side, I suppose. This little guy here, I pulled all the way down, which goes behind this form, and you can't really see it, except you can see the transparency. I'll talk about transparency too, because that's what the red pencil now will represent, is transparent lines. As you can see here, I'm starting to use my dark blue pencil to outline, I'll use my dark blue pencil to do that, to outline the exterior of the forms that I want to be seen, the ones I'm committing to. And I'm also, where it goes in front of something, I outline it. Where it goes behind something, I stop. As you can see, this form here goes behind this form, so that line stops here. And then the transparent line of what was once there before, sometimes it's in red, sometimes it's in green, mostly in red, I allow that to stay. And then there's another form here that's in front of it, so you don't see it come in at all. And when this line comes through, it stops here because this form is in front of that form. So it's up to you to determine what's in front and what's behind. We talked about before that that's an illusion, so you can make that decision as you go. In some cases, just make a decision. Don't worry, don't think too much about it. So what I'm gonna do now is sharpen my pencil, as always. And this is kind of an easy, the fun part. All the work, oh man, that's not, I just busted my point. All the work I've done before is most of the labor. So the original laying it out, putting the geometric forms in, making rounds, thinking about composition. I'll talk about that a little bit too. And then now I'm just kind of, I'm happy with the composition. And right now I'm just kind of outlining forms and making a sense of hierarchy and allowing some of the transparent lines to stay. Before I go any further, in terms of outlining some of the blue, I see another opportunity here for a transparent red line. Do you see the base of this form? Right here, I can round behind there in this color red, and I just show the transparency. And I think it can happen again right here. It just shows the transparent form, the interior transparent part of that form. Transparency can be the interior part of the form, and it can also be what goes behind something. For example, right here, this is behind that other object. It's underneath of it, actually. And you can show transparency that way. So that alludes to line weight. In terms of a variety of line weight, that's something that you want. Okay, so what I'm gonna do here is I'm just gonna outline this one section. And I'm just taking my blue and I'm going right on top. I'm pressing a little harder here because I'm committing to this line. And I'm gonna come back in and go down. Now, if there's anywhere where it's a straight line, use your ruler. Do not draw a straight line by hand. It's gonna look awful. and you might as well not do it. Anything that's curved, take your time drawing it. Don't rush through it. You've done all this work. It's a lot of work. Oops, I just made an oopsie. This form is going to be in front of that form, so I should have known that, but I can erase it. So again, take your time when you're drawing this stuff out. If it doesn't look good, go back and redo it. Just erase it, go back and redo it. Okay, so I'll draw this coming out here. And when you enter the stage, take your time. Don't rush it. What I mean by that is, like, look what you're doing. Don't just outline a form. You're like, oh crud, half of this was behind this, the other half was in front of it. I outlined the wrong part. Now I have to go back. And if you just take your time, you'll save more time. I guess this is in front of that, so I can lighten this here. Again, there's a straight line. So I put this in. I didn't do a good job there, so I'm going to erase it. And when I busted my point, of course, this happens when I make a video. These are difficult pencils to sharpen, so to get that point back, take a while. Not conducive for video making. All right. And again, I can't stress enough, you can see how slow I'm going here. It goes into a straight line, and then it rounds back out again. And it goes into a straight line. You want all these lines to be even in terms of value. And you can kind of see how that form starts to pop out. What's nice about this drawing when it's all complete is that you're going to have 4 different stages or phases of the drawing all be present. And there's going to be a sense of hierarchy. This value is going to be the most important thing, which is the outline of the final forms. That's the most important. That's the first thing the viewer is going to see. The second thing the viewer is going to see is the red, the transparency of the form, how it goes behind objects. Third thing they'll see is the green geometric original cube forms that you made. And then the very last thing is the original template that you made, the 3060 gridded paper. All those are going to be present at the very final part of the project. So I'll just do one more little section. One thing I do want to talk about is composition. When you're thinking about composition, is basically just design, arrangement of forms on a page or on a picture plane, or there's many different definitions, but basically it's layout, arrangement, design. In this case, there's a couple things I want you to think about. I want you to think about micro and macro, meaning micro meaning on some small moments. See how small this object is here and how large this object is here? So that's a nice contrast between the two, micro and macro. So try to have a balance between that. Balance of contradictory things within a composition is good. You want balance. Another thing that you can achieve balance with is geometric versus organic. That's going to happen because you have the green line and then you have the organic line. It already exists there, but try to make that sure that's present, because there are some moments where I do keep a hard geometric line, a hard edge here within some of my designs. Here as well, I think this is kind of a straight line. So I do try to balance it out. I'm keeping that in the back of my mind so it's consistent all the way through. In terms of movement, you want the eye to move around here. You don't want it to get kind of stuck in one section. I call that like a visual pothole when your eye gets stuck in one section. Usually it's because it's not resolved. An unresolved area is an area that you really didn't work on too much or doesn't interconnect with the other parts of the design. So movement, how do you create nice movement? These, like for example, this is a good move here. This brings the eye in this direction. It doesn't bring the eye off the page. It brings the eye in towards the center. This brings the eye down and then it loops back in because of this curve here. This loop here whips the eye right back into the composition. This loop here will whip the eye down and over and around. There's a nice long line here. Oh, that's another form of balance. Long lines, short lines. Long directional pulls, short directional pulls. So have a balance between the two. So there's a lot of emphasis and momentum going in this direction, here and here. I have some momentum going in this direction, here and here, a little bit here. And I have some momentum going vertical, which can also be read as going up and down. And I have that here and a little bit here and a few things there and there. So in terms of movement, this is balanced, and that's where I want it to be. Line weight is another form of composition. You see through the layers of the forms, you create a sense of hierarchy. I already talked about that, but that is also a form of composition. And there's also a word, Gestalt. It's a German term. It means parts working together as a whole. Parts can stand alone, but they can kind of work together as a whole. A good example of this is an automobile engine. All these different parts working together perfectly, running at the same time, the timing of it, everything's kind of perfect. It's this word that means Gestalt. So in this case, yes, parts working together as a whole, all these different parts kind of interconnect, intertwine. Now, another thing I didn't do here, but you can do in your drawing if you want to, is wedging. I just thought there was so many different lines, you can get too convoluted, and I thought wedging was going to be a just to confuse the viewer more. It wouldn't be legible, so I wanted it to be somewhat legible and clear. So that's why I'm using this really dark pencil at the very last end to clarify some of this stuff, because if this isn't here and you just try to read this, it's confusing to understand. This will allow the viewer to see the first and foremost thing, and then you can start to appreciate all the underlying structure. I'm going to jump right here and just kind of draw this guy in, because this is in front of everything, so I might as well draw that first. I'm going to throw a couple big lines in. And I see I'm coming up on 15 minutes, so I'm going to try to make this short. Probably could have used a straight ruler there, but I didn't have to. Now notice I stopped here because I know that this form is in front of that, so I just kind of stopped it. Let me show you an opportunity here. This is an opportunity for transparency. I don't know if you can't see it, but see this line here? There's also going to be a line back here if this was transparent, because this is a rectangle. A rectangle has 4 corners. Where would that line exist? It would exist right here. I'm going to draw the line straight down. Even though it doesn't make sense yet, Hold on, I think this goes out here. That's not true. So I'm not going to do the curve yet because I don't understand it yet. And I don't want to waste the video time on that. But just by throwing that little line back there, it did create transparency. I can turn the line straight up here and go up there as well. But I just wanted to present that as an opportunity for teaching. Curl these guys into the line. Curl these guys into the line. And again, don't get too confident and try to draw these straight lines. Just go back in, use your ruler. It's gonna look that much better. You can lean on it until the line starts to curve, and then you can start to put the curve back in. Now, my pencil's starting to dull out on me a little bit, and I'm going to sharpen it. So you can see this starting to play out. I'm going to have a photograph of this on the main site. You can see it completed. Until then, I'll see you later.